Welcome to Shatter.
Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories. She stayed out again. No message. No call. No explanation. It was 2:41 a.m. when I heard the garage door finally grind open. I was already awake. I hadn't slept. Not because I was worried, because I was calculating. She tiptoed in like silence would undo the fact that she'd disappeared for 9 hours after work. Her heels clacked on the hardwood before she slipped them off by the door like that erased everything. I didn't get up. I didn't ask questions. I didn't even glance at her when she crept into the bedroom, smelling like a bar bathroom and half a stranger. Instead, I just lay there, back turned, eyes wide open. This wasn't the first time. This wasn't even the fifth. But tonight was different. Not because she came back late, but because I'd already stopped caring. Earlier that evening, I had cooked dinner. Nothing fancy. Just pasta and grilled chicken, something we used to enjoy on Tuesdays back when we still sat at the same table. I lit a candle. Not for her. For me. To see if I still felt anything when I tried. I didn't. I ate alone. In silence. Then cleared 2 plates off the table. One clean. One untouched. By 9 p.m., I knew she wasn't coming home. So I walked into the office, opened the drawer where we kept pens and envelopes, and wrote a single sentence. Hope your boyfriend helps with the mortgage. I left it on the counter. No yelling. No drama. Just ink and truth. Because here's the thing about a man's silence. It's not peace. It's pressure. And that note? That was my pressure point. That was my shift from passive to strategic. I didn't wait to see her read it. I didn't care if she tore it up. The damage was already done. Not to her, but to the illusion. The fake version of our life that she thought I was too blind to challenge. She came home thinking she could pretend again. Act like nothing had happened. That I wouldn't notice the missed texts, the cold body language, the lies wrapped in casual smiles. But she forgot who paid the bills. Who built the foundation she was now eroding with cheap secrets and late arrivals. She forgot who she married. Or maybe she never knew. I didn't say a word the next morning. I made 1 cup of coffee. Just one. Hers stayed in the cabinet. I ate breakfast in the garage. With the door open. Watching the sky lighten, one shade at a time. By the time she walked into the kitchen, still wearing last night's makeup, the note was gone. But she didn't speak. She didn't have to. I saw it in her face. She finally realized something. I wasn't angry. I was done. And men like me don't storm out. We vanish. The next morning, she tried to act normal. She walked into the kitchen, hair tied up, wearing my old hoodie like it still meant something. But I noticed 2 things immediately. 1, she didn't say good morning. 2, her eyes flicked to the counter where the note had been. It was gone. I didn't need to ask if she'd read it. She didn't touch the coffee maker. Didn't even open the fridge. Just lingered there, hoping I'd say something first. I didn't. I tied my boots slowly, grabbed my keys, and walked out without a word. She stood there, quiet, watching me leave like she expected a line, a look, a fight. But I had nothing left to offer. No questions. No curiosity. No permission. I sat in my car in the driveway for a few minutes before leaving. Not to calm down. I wasn't angry. I was focused. That's the difference between pain and precision. Pain wants to scream. Precision wants results. And I was operating with surgical clarity now. At work, I opened a private savings account. Transferred a chunk of our joint funds. Just the part that I'd earned. Just enough to shift the balance without setting off alarms. I called the mortgage company. Verified that everything was in my name. It was. Then I changed the passwords on every utility bill. No announcements. No emails. Just quiet control. When I came home that night, she was already on the couch. Netflix paused. 2 wine glasses on the table like she thought that counted as effort. She turned her head when I walked in, offered a soft, hey, like we were still pretending. I looked at the wine, then at her, then walked into the kitchen and poured myself water. That silence. It choked her harder than any accusation ever could. She was used to emotional leverage. She was used to me apologizing for things I didn't do, just to keep the peace. But now there was no war. And no war means no power plays. Just cold withdrawal. The days started to blur. She'd wake up after me. I'd leave before she said anything. She began testing new tricks, dressing nicer at home, suddenly cooking again, leaving post-it notes on the fridge like it was 2019. But none of it landed. Because I wasn't playing anymore. I wasn't reacting. And men like me, we don't get emotional. We execute. She texted me 3 days after the note. Just one line. Can we talk tonight? I didn't respond. That evening, I changed the lock on the garage door. She still had her key, but I wasn't trying to keep her out. I was just reminding her this was my house. She came home at 8:17 p.m. No makeup, no wine glasses. She walked in, saw me on the couch, and froze. Her voice was soft. Did you change the lock? I didn't look up from the TV. Yes. She waited, expecting more. A reason, a fight, a reaction. But I gave her nothing. Because when a woman turns your home into a hotel and your name into an afterthought, you don't fight for her attention. You reclaim your peace. She went upstairs in silence. That was the first night she didn't sleep in our bed. Not because I told her to leave, but because she couldn't face what I'd become. A man she could no longer control. The silence didn't break. It multiplied. She stopped trying to hide her confusion. Day by day, she moved through the house like a stranger. The kitchen was quieter, the hallway colder, and the space between us, that was no longer distance. It was void. She started leaving earlier for work, coming back later than usual. No explanations. No dinner tonight. No how was your day. Just doors closing softly behind her and the occasional echo of high heels fading into the night. But what she didn't realize was that I no longer tracked her movements out of suspicion. I tracked them like a builder watching a condemned building slowly collapse, just to make sure I wasn't in the way when it finally fell. I kept moving forward. Every night, I wrote down one thing I was reclaiming. Freedom, focus, silence, space. She was expecting a fight, some late-stage begging, maybe even a last-minute romantic gesture to pull us back from the edge. But the edge was gone. I had already stepped off. She tried again that Friday night. I came home late. Gym, a long drive, nothing planned. Just time. My time. The kind I used to give away too easily. She was waiting in the living room, wrapped in the throw blanket she hadn't touched in months. The smell of takeout hung in the air. Thai food, my favorite. 1 plate, 2 forks. I walked in, nodded once, and kept moving. She didn't follow. I heard her footsteps behind me 5 minutes later. She lingered at the bedroom door. Said something about trying to make things better. I looked at her like she was a memory I hadn't decided what to do with yet. She waited. Hoped. And then I turned off the light. That was the night she started crying in the shower. She thought I didn't hear it. But I did. And for a brief moment, I almost felt something. Not pity. Not love. Just the echo of who I used to be. But he wasn't home anymore. The next morning, I took down our wedding photo. The one in the hallway. The one she used to show off to guests like it was proof of something solid. I didn't throw it away. Didn't smash it. I slid it quietly into the back of the hall closet. Buried it behind boxes labeled Christmas and college stuff. She noticed. Of course she did. Her eyes landed on the empty wall, just for a second. She didn't say a word. But her silence wasn't control anymore. It was fear. The old rules were gone. The old me, too. I stopped waiting for her to understand. She wasn't built to understand this version of me. She was used to emotions. Apologies. Conflict. Not this. Not stillness. Not absence with precision. Sunday morning, I made breakfast for one. Cleaned up. Took my car for a detailing and left my phone at home on purpose. When I returned, she was sitting on the stairs, phone in hand, eyes puffy. I walked past her like she was furniture I no longer used. That's when I knew she was starting to feel it. Not regret. Not guilt. But the unraveling. The reality that she'd created a world where I wasn't necessary. And I had finally accepted the invitation to leave it. Without packing. Without announcing. Just disappearing, one version of me at a time. The next shift wasn't emotional. It was strategic. By now, I didn't look at her the same. Not like a wife. Not even like a woman I used to love. She was a pattern. And I was decoding it. Tuesday night, she left her phone on the kitchen counter. Face down. Charging. She always used to keep it glued to her hand. Always locked. Always screen dimmed the second I walked in the room. But lately, she got careless. Or maybe confident. Like she assumed I'd given up trying to see the truth. She wasn't wrong. I wasn't trying to see it anymore. I was just confirming what I already knew. I didn't go through her texts. I didn't open her apps. All I did was turn the screen over and look at the last notification. It wasn't a name. It was initials. A message preview from someone saved as JL. No emojis. Just 5 words. Same time tomorrow? Can't wait. That was all I needed. I didn't react. I didn't take a photo of the screen. I didn't bring it up at dinner, because we didn't have dinner. I just placed the phone back exactly where it was. Face down. Like her loyalty. She came back into the kitchen 10 minutes later. Picked up her phone without looking at me. No thanks. No eye contact. Just a quick glance at the screen and a flick of her thumb. She didn't know I'd seen it. But that was the beauty of this stage. I didn't need her to confess. I just needed her to confirm. And she did. Every time she left the house with too much perfume and no answers. Every time she wore heels to just get coffee. Every time she posted stories with just enough gaps to hide the details. But none of that mattered now. Because now I had clarity. And clarity breeds power. The next day, I met with my lawyer. I'd already moved part of my finances to a private account. But now I wanted protection. Clean lines. Quiet exits. We reviewed everything. The house. In my name. The car. Mine. The business. Untouched by her. I asked about timeline. He said, "You want to file now?" I said, "No, not yet. I want her to feel the drift first." He smirked. Cold. I shook my head. Just focused. That night, I canceled 2 credit cards. Not hers. Just the joint ones. The ones I paid off monthly. The ones she used to fill with skincare and Uber rides she claimed were work-related. She wouldn't notice at first, but she would when the next auto payment failed. When the convenience started breaking down. When the structure she mistook for background noise began vanishing. At 10:47 p.m., she walked into the bedroom wearing the same lingerie she used on our anniversary 2 years ago. No warning. No conversation. Just silent performance. She slipped under the sheets and turned toward me, reaching slowly, like it meant something. I didn't move. I didn't even flinch. I kept reading. She stayed frozen like that for a few seconds before turning her back to me. That was her move. But she forgot. I don't chase what's already gone. By morning, she was in the shower longer than usual. Doors slammed a little harder. The fake calm cracked just a little. She asked if I was free for dinner Friday. I said, "Not sure. Got plans." She nodded like she understood. But I knew she didn't. Because for the first time in a long time, she wasn't the one setting the temperature in the room. I was. And it was getting colder by the hour. Friday started with silence. Not hers, mine. She texted around noon. Just 2 words, "Dinner tonight." I waited. Hours. Then replied, "Probably late." No smiley. No question. Just space. She used to know how to command a room. Now she was watching for signs, waiting for my temperature to rise or fall. But the problem was, I stopped being weather. I became climate. When I got home that evening, she was dressed like we had plans. Table set. Candles lit. Wine opened. It looked like a scene from 5 years ago. Too bad that man was gone. She gave me a look, soft, hopeful, and said she made my favorite. I stepped past her, opened the fridge, pulled out a bottle of water. I already ate. Her lips parted like she wanted to say something, or scream something. She didn't. She just sat down, fork in hand, eating alone at a table meant for 2. Saturday, she tried again. French toast. Orange juice. No words, just the smell of regret. I poured my coffee and walked outside. Wasn't about anger. It was discipline. She used to think silence meant tension, that it could be broken with effort. A nice dinner. A soft touch. A question in the right tone. But this wasn't tension. This was transformation. By Sunday, I cleaned the garage. Found a box of old photos, wedding stuff, vacations. Memories she'd kept for show. I sealed the box. Wrote 1 word across the top. Archive. Didn't throw it out. Didn't need to. The message was clear, even if she never saw it. That night, she started a fight. Small, weak. Something about dishes. I looked at her, then past her. Grabbed my keys. "I'll be back." "Where are you going?" No answer. She wasn't entitled to one. Because now, she wasn't part of the plan. Just noise in the background. And I was tuning out, for good. Monday started with the usual silence. We moved around each other like ghosts. She didn't speak. I didn't look. The only sound in the house was the hum of the fridge and footsteps that didn't mean anything anymore. I left earlier than usual. Not for work. For structure. At the office, I opened the folder I'd started weeks back. Inside, screenshots, transfers, account closures, lawyer contacts. Every detail of the life I was rebuilding without her. It wasn't anger. It was math. That night, I came home late. She was on the couch again. This time no candles, no effort, just presence. She asked if I wanted to talk. I sat down, untied my shoes, and walked past her. No response. No eye contact. That was the answer. Tuesday, she started reaching. Not physically, emotionally. Subtle questions. Sudden concern. Are you seeing someone? I didn't answer. Not because I had something to hide. Because I had nothing to explain. She asked again at dinner. This time softer. Almost quiet. I looked up once. Then back at my plate. Wednesday morning, I cleared out my half of the closet. Just a few things. Boots, jackets. Enough to shift the space. She watched from the hallway. Didn't say a word. But I could feel it. The panic under her silence. She thought I was bluffing. She was wrong. That night, I changed the password to a joint account. One she used for online orders. Subtle. Quiet. Deliberate. By morning, she was pacing. Checking emails. Refreshing screens. I just sat at the table, reading. She didn't bring it up. But the silence between us, it wasn't neutral anymore. It was pressure. Thursday evening, I called a realtor. Asked about a one-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood. No rush, I said. Just browsing. She passed me in the hallway as I hung up. Looked at the phone. Looked at me. Didn't ask. Because asking meant opening a door she wasn't ready to see behind. Friday night, she cooked. Set the table again. Her version of peace offerings. I didn't touch the food. I poured myself coffee. Took it to the garage. I needed space. Not from her. From the version of me that used to wait for her to change. And now? Now I wasn't waiting for anything. By now, she'd stopped pretending. No more fake smiles. No small talk over coffee. No casual questions about my schedule. She moved like someone living on borrowed time. And I let her. Because silence isn't always punishment. Sometimes it's preparation. Saturday morning, she lingered longer in bed. I was already up. Dressed. Gone. I spent the day at a quiet cafe across town. Laptop open. Not working. Just watching the hours pass. I needed her to feel the absence in full. Not from a distance. From inside the house. When I came home, the first thing I noticed was the scent. Not her perfume. Not cleaning supplies. Cologne. Not mine. I didn't say a word. Just walked into the kitchen. The trash hadn't been taken out. Inside, a crumpled receipt from a liquor store I never used. 2 bottles. One expensive. One cheap. One for impression. One for distraction. I smiled. Not out of jealousy. Out of confirmation. That night, she went for a drive. Said she needed air. I didn't ask where. Didn't wait up. She came back past midnight. I heard her keys drop. Her steps soft, cautious. She paused outside the bedroom door. Then walked away. Slept in the guest room again. Sunday morning, I cleaned the guest sheets. Folded them. Put them in the hallway closet. Left the guest bed unmade. A message. She got it. By Monday, I'd rerouted my mail. Bank statements. Insurance. Everything now came to a P.O. box. She found the notice in the stack of mail. Her eyes scanned it twice. Then she tucked it under a magazine like it didn't matter. But it did. She knew it. That evening, she tried one last play. Said she was thinking about us. Said she wanted to talk about things. I listened. Not because I cared. Because it was the final move before collapse. She spoke about the past. About stress. About trying. I stayed quiet. When she asked if I had anything to say, I looked at her. Calm. And said, no. That word. It landed harder than a door slam. She blinked, nodded slowly, and left the room. No more performances. No more tactics. The next morning, she didn't say goodbye. She just closed the front door behind her like it was too heavy to open again. And I knew. She felt it now. Not guilt. Not regret. The weight of being irrelevant. By midweek, the shift became visible. Not in me. In her. She started dressing up again. Full makeup. Even at home. Her voice changed, too. Softer, careful, almost polite. But it wasn't guilt. It was strategy. She wasn't trying to fix us. She was trying to regain control. Problem was, she was trying to play chess with a man who'd already left the board. Thursday, I got home earlier than usual. She was in the kitchen, pretending not to be startled. Her laptop open. She closed it too fast. Later that night, I checked the browser history. It was clean. Too clean. That told me more than any open tab ever could. Friday afternoon, I called my lawyer. Told him we were greenlit. He asked, "You sure?" I said, "Absolutely." That evening, I printed the papers. Kept them in my bag. Didn't hand them over yet. Timing matters. Saturday, I made a list. Everything I'd done. Everything she didn't notice. The house maintenance. Her subscriptions. Her car insurance. Her phone plan. Her backup drive. Her calendar alerts. Her life. quietly running because I made it run. I wasn't trying to prove a point. I was just cataloging what I was about to shut down. Sunday morning, I took my wedding band off. No announcement. No ceremony. Just slipped it off in the shower and placed it in the drawer next to my razor. She saw it later. I know because she left hers on all day. Even wore a short-sleeved shirt. But I wasn't looking for a match. I was preparing for an exit. That night, I asked her a question for the first time in weeks. "Are you happy?" She paused. Said something vague. Something that didn't answer the question. That's when I knew she'd already started crafting her version of the story. A narrative where she was confused, I was distant, and the end was mutual. It wasn't. This wasn't mutual. It was mine. Because I wasn't going to be the man she came back to when her fantasy failed. I wasn't her backup plan. She just hadn't realized yet. I was already gone. I gave her the weekend. Not to fix anything. Just to watch. She walked lighter now. As if pretending nothing had changed would somehow reverse the course. She played the good wife. Cooked. Asked soft questions. Wore clothes she hadn't touched in months. But I wasn't watching to forgive. I was measuring the distance between reality and performance. And she was deep in performance mode. Sunday afternoon, I cleared the last of my files from the home office. She noticed. Stood in the doorway, watching as I boxed up hard drives and documents. "Spring cleaning?" she asked. I nodded. She didn't smile. By evening, she was scrolling her phone in the kitchen, a half glass of wine untouched. Her shoulders tense. I could tell she was waiting for a signal, a sentence, a shift, a return to the version of me she remembered. But I wasn't coming back. Not to her. Not to this. That night, I printed one last document. Set it on the kitchen counter. No big reveal. Just white paper and legal lines. When she walked in the next morning, it was waiting. She stood over it for a long time. Didn't touch it. Just read the header. Petition for divorce. I left the house before she could ask questions. Let the silence deliver the message. By noon, she'd texted twice. No response. When I came home, the papers were gone from the counter. I checked the office drawer. She'd placed them there. Neatly. Not signed. Of course not. She wasn't ready to lose. But she'd already lost. That evening, I removed her access to the shared accounts. Her subscriptions failed. Her phone plan redirected to mine. The housekeeper didn't show up. I'd canceled her. That's when the text changed. Less polite. More panicked. I didn't reply. Because that's what happens when someone treats you like a background character for too long. You stop showing up for the story. And now, the story wasn't about her. It was about the price of taking a man for granted. And I was done letting her pay late. The final move wasn't loud. It wasn't a fight, a breakdown, or a public scene. It was Monday morning. I'd packed 2 bags the night before. Just clothes, documents, essentials. Everything else, irrelevant. She was still asleep when I left. Or pretending to be. Either way, it didn't matter. I didn't slam the door. Didn't leave a note. Didn't take anything she'd miss. Just disappeared. The way men do when they've already left long before their body follows. By noon, I turned my phone off. By evening, I turned it back on to silence. No missed calls. 3 texts. All short. The last one, "Are you gone?" I didn't answer. She would know soon enough. I stayed in a rental for the first week. Quiet place. No history. No reminders. I breathed differently there. Not heavier. Not broken. Just clean. A few mutual friends reached out. Polite questions. Careful words. I didn't share details. Because men like me don't explain absence. We enforce it. She didn't sign the papers right away. Tried to drag it out. Lawyers, delays, vague requests. But every delay only showed her what life was without me. Not in anger, not in hate, but in complete removal. Eventually, she signed. No ceremony. No call. Just scanned pages in my inbox. I read none of it. Forwarded everything to legal. I blocked her number the next day. Final step. Not out of pettiness. Out of principle. Because closure doesn't come from conversation. It comes from control. Months passed. She posted less. Mutual friends stopped mentioning her. The silence around her was louder than anything I could have said. One night, I opened a folder on my desktop. The one with all the notes, receipts, screenshots. Everything I collected during the drift. I selected all. Deleted. Not out of forgiveness. Out of completion. I didn't want evidence. I wanted nothing. I didn't lose a wife. I removed a liability. And now, when people ask what happened to us, I don't answer. I just say, she mistook silence for weakness. And now, she lives in the noise she created. Alone. What would you have done in my place? If the story hit you, leave a like. And don't forget to subscribe. It only gets stronger from here.